In order to understand the various creatures that exist in the world of Silent Hill 3, it must first be understood that these creatures are manifestations from one of the various characters' minds. Sometimes this is in the form of an archetype being directly represented. Other times it is in the form of an idea or fear manifesting itself. Herein, the creatures and my interpretations of their meanings will be listed. The first creature is the Closer. The Closer has a strong phallic properties in that it has two particular long and protruding arms that it uses to attack. It vaguely resembles a human, but describing it any further is difficult. The Doublehead. The Doublehead resembles a dog, wrapped in bandages with its head split vertically down the centre. Its visage is probably a dual manifestation of Alessa's fear of dogs combined with the pain of being burned, represented by the bandages. The Glutton is a very difficult creature to describe, as it basically is a very rough human-like figure contained in a large cylinder that is only represented by a circle above and below it. It very likely represents the baby growing in Heather's womb, with the cylinder representing the womb. Furthermore, the manner in which it blocks the hallway could be a metaphor for how a child blocks the birth canal during birth. The Insane Cancer. The Insane Cancer is a large, essentially fat monster that appears to have overgrown with a cancerous mass. Its skin is a pale colour, and although it moves with a relatively quick pace, its movements are also unbalanced, causing it to fall over easily. This particular creature appears to have a similar function to that of the Numb Body, but rather than representing the fear of stillbirth, it represents the fear of the baby developing cancer whilst in the womb. This is represented by it having poor motor skills, a la it falls over easily, as well as it having pale skin. Memory of Alessa. This creature serves as the repressed aspects of Heather's personality, namely the aspects that are associated with Alessa. The shame Alessa felt due to the tortures she underwent has formed a repressed part of Heather's personality, and along with it the negative aspects of Heather or her shadow archetype. Where Heather has an expressive face, her shadow archetype is completely serious. Missionary and Scraper. The Missionary and the Scraper are supposedly cult members that have been transformed by Silent Hill. Both of them look very similar, being comprised of human figures with distorted faces. They also both wield the same type of weapon, a handle with a blade at the end which in whole vaguely resembles a syringe of some kind. It is entirely possible that they are actually both the same monster seen in two different ways depending on whether they are formed via Heather's aspect of the subconscious or by Alessa's. Numb Body. This creature appears largely in the sewers, although at times also appears in places such as the shopping mall. It is also the first creature the player faces during gameplay. It is defined by its tripod-like shape, with a lack of any arms and its pale blue or seemingly frozen skin. Upon its death, it emits a sound resembling the crying of an infant. It also has a somewhat odd movement when it is forced backwards with a hit. As such, the artistic design appears to be associated with the fear Heather has of having a stillborn child. Nurses. Nurses transformed into monsters by Silent Hill. There are two potential meanings for this. The first is that the nurses are seen as evil by Alessa's subconscious, and are thus manifest directly from her mind. The second is that, while nurses helping deliver a desired baby may be seen as angelic, when the baby is undesired they can be seen as demons and are thus manifested from Heather's mind. Pendulum. The pendulum is an odd creature that has a very intimidating grinding sound. It has a very odd shape with a metallic body, two heads at opposing sides of this body, and walks around on three blades with said body in the centre. In truth, it appears to represent sex between two people, as the two heads are configured in such a way, with the body potentially being two bodies attached to one another. Subsequently, it is most probably associated with the fact that Heather is pregnant, with pregnancy of course being the result of sex. Slurper. The Slurper has a clearly masculine shape, looking somewhat like a human male that crawls around on all four limbs. It also has a bill-like head with a long snout. When it attacks, it knocks Heather over and attacks with its bill. This is most likely meant to represent something of a sexual assault against Heather, metaphorically referring to the fact that Heather became pregnant against her will. Splitworm. The splitworm is something of a giant worm with a head that opens horizontally to reveal another head with sharp teeth. It appears to be somewhat surrounded by a mucus-like substance, with a purple outer layer and a fleshy inner layer. It is most likely a dual representation of male and female genitalia associated with the birth process. The god. The god takes on somewhat different form than many of the other creatures, largely because it is born of Claudia's imagination, rather than Heather's. As such, it took on a partial form of a lesser due to Claudia's belief that a lesser was her saviour, a deity of sorts. Furthermore, due to it having been born, it is not yet complete, and its body is still in a skeleton form. The area in which Heather battles the god is also symbolically representing the womb, something she has to jump down into to enter. This is the reason for that odd white ghost-like being entering shortly after Claudia does, namely that it represents the male force required in bearing a child. Veltiel further represents this. Another facet of interest is that the area in which you fight the god heavily resembles the Francis Bacon painting titled 1946. Veltiel. Veltiel is a clearly masculine figure that sneaks about Silent Hill and seems to be aiding Heather. While he has the odd aesthetic properties that all the monsters in the game possess, something is quite different about Veltiel in that his actions seem far more specific. For instance, Veltiel buries, perhaps even kills, Claudia at the end of the game. The most probable explanation for this is that Veltiel is Heather's animus, the male aspect of her mind. As the male aspect of her mind, it acts in a manner that Heather believes male do, in that it protects her by using violence, and ushers in the birth of her child, even though she does not consciously want it.